What is going on, everybody? This is Thomas Miner. I'm an agent at Remax Precision, and this is Thomas Talks live on Thursday. Been doing this for about 3 weeks now. I'm really excited to keep on doing a live stream where I can potentially answer your guys' questions live. I am here to talk about anything Des Moines real estate or Des Moines area in general, what it's like being a real estate agent, whatever you're curious about. I'm always super interested in market statistics and kind of giving you guys a vibe of what's going on through that lens. But if you have any things you're curious about or questions you have that might not have to do with that, I'm definitely here to answer those as well too. So let's get into it. I'm gonna switch up the format a little bit, add this to stage. Perfect. I got some interesting stats here to show you guys. Hopefully you can read this pretty well. This is Les Solgrove does a amazing YouTube channel where he kind of highlights some Des Moines Metro statistics. And what we're looking at here is 2025, and you're looking at median list price. You're looking at median price at pending. So that's the price that it was listed at when it went under contract. And then you're looking at median sales price. So that's what it ended up closing at. And as you can see at the start of the year, that list price and close price were very far away from each other. And as you can see, as the year has gone on, they're starting to get closer and closer to each other. So list prices, they're kind of adjusting to what the market is right now. And we're not at a market where sales prices are necessarily decreasing. I mean, you can look over this whole year and prices have still gone up from January to December now. We might see a little bit of a dip come January, and it'll probably still end up being higher than it was last year. I think people are still going to see an appreciation year over year, but it's definitely more so of a flattening. I think we're not experiencing the appreciation that we saw in 2021, 2022, 2023. It's definitely flattened out some, which I think is interesting. This is kind of on that same topic that I was talking about with list prices getting more realistic. This is showing from 2017 to 2025 how many price reductions have been done on listings. So list a house, decrease the price to hopefully catch the market. You couldn't sell it at that original list price. That's what this is tracking, just how many of those have been done. And this year, 2025, has already beat all of the other years. So far this year, we've had just over 19,000 price reductions. So a lot of people have been adjusting their price, obviously, as they're adjusting to what buyers are willing to pay for the home. I mentioned this last week, but for the last few years, not so much last year. I think a lot of agents have started to catch on to this, but a lot of people were just trying to chase that market up and kind of push those list price and see if we can get that crazy price, start out with that. And I don't think we're seeing that big of an appreciation. So listing agents are not getting that crazy price that they're listing it at right now, or sellers in general too. So sellers pick the home price. So this kind of gives it a peek into too. I mean, your real estate market prices are all based on supply and demand. Demand, ever since interest rates jumped up quite a bit last year, demand has gone down a little bit, and supply has gone up quite a little bit. We are looking at right over 4,500 total homes listed, and that is basically you'd have to go all the way back to 2012 to get that type of inventory level. So we have quite a bit of inventory, and that is what's causing these price decreases to happen too. There's just a lot of homes to look at, and there hasn't been a sufficient increase in buyer demand as well. So that's the good news of all of this is we've had buyer demand not necessarily grow. Listings have gone up, but as far as closed prices, we have not seen a decrease year over year yet. So that's kind of your positive, your silver lining there, so to speak. This is pending sales. And I think what's interesting here is pendings we're trending down, trending down, trending down, and then now as we're getting towards the end of this year, they're starting to trend back up, or they're at the very least staying flat, which is a good sign. There's some stuff that we're going to talk about later too that I think more buyers might be coming into the market, so demand might be increasing a little bit. So as long as some of those external factors help buyers come back into the market, I think that that's a very, very good sign. So I see a lot of people popping in and out. Do not be afraid to comment with any questions you have, anything you want me to talk about as far as the Des Moines area or the real estate market in general. Kind of a similar trend that we're seeing with time on market, so days on market. In 2022, we were looking at a really, really low days on market, and it's just kind of steadily gone up the past few years, and that's starting to flatten out a little bit too. You can see that peak at the very end there didn't get quite as high as some of these other ones. So a lot of people might be talking to you about how December, January are kind of slow months, and we got burned pretty bad by early snow this year. Snow, cold weather never helps the real estate market. But our days on market is staying pretty strong, and it's kind of starting to flatten out as well too. So let's get into follower questions and kind of talk about what people want to talk about. So my father, shout out to Tim Minert, he commented saying, with the recent 1.4 interest rate reduction, how will that affect rates? So what he's talking about is the Fed rate. The Fed just announced this week that the Fed rate, they're dropping it a quarter basis point, so a fourth of a percent. The Fed rate is what the rate is that banks lend to each other. The Fed rate is directly tied to more of your short-term interest. Your credit card interest is directly tied to that. Your car loans is directly tied to that. It is not necessarily tied to mortgage rates, because mortgage rates are more of a long-term type loan. Most people sign a 30-year mortgage. Most people keep those loans for 7 to 10 years. So it's much more of a long-term thing. So they do not completely base their interest rate off of the Fed rate. It does help. The Fed rate going down is never ever a bad thing. And with that recent Fed announcement, interest rates are gone down, not necessarily just because of that, but because what Jerome Powell said. I have some notes here. Powell, he said the Fed will be starting to purchase mortgage bonds, which will increase the demand for mortgage bonds, and it'll make the Treasury bond more appealing for investors to buy, because the Treasury bond and the mortgage-backed securities are very similar products. And when you're looking at interest rates, the Treasury bond ends up being a really, really good indicator of mortgage interest rates, because the lower the price of the Treasury bond gets, the more appealing it is for people to buy mortgage-backed securities. And mortgage-backed securities are appealing based on what the interest rate that they all are. So the more appealing Treasury bonds are, the higher we have to increase interest rates to make the mortgage-backed securities appealing, if that all makes sense. So if Treasury bonds go down, they don't have to make the mortgage-backed securities as attractive, so they can decrease the rates on mortgages and get more mortgages. It's all kind of this fine line, this little dance that people are playing. So in general, it's good news, but it's more so good news about what Powell said than it is necessarily the Fed dropping, which it is a good thing. Interest rates should be going down. They already started trending down after his announcement, which is a good thing. The sooner we can get to like a 5.5% mortgage interest rate, the better the market is going to look, in my opinion. Chris Fryer commented saying, "What is your favorite thing about selling houses?" And depending on the day you ask me, I will give you a different answer to this. Today, I mean, there's so many things I love about this job. One, I was just talking to someone about this the other day. I get to meet a lot of great people, and I get to help a lot of people that are close to me as well too. I was thinking about my wedding that I had in October, and so many of those guests I had sold a house to or sold their house for them. And it has just helped me be closer to people that I already knew and meet new people, great new people. The Des Moines area is full of so many nice people. And that's probably my favorite part about the job is just the clients and the people I get to meet, most of them. The other thing that I really enjoy about it, I am kind of a geek when it comes to board games and puzzles and stuff like that. And people's home searches, selling people's listings is kind of sort of a puzzle. It's a problem you have to solve. And when I solve that puzzle, when I find the home that's a perfect fit for someone, it's a high like no other. It's so hard to describe just how great of a feeling that is. So that's kind of the answer to that. With the recent interest rate deductions, do you think it would be a good time to refinance, or do you foresee interest rates going lower than they are now in the near future? We kind of talked about this a little bit. Yeah, interest rates have gone down. The general rule of thumb you will see with refinancing is you probably shouldn't refinance unless you're going to get interest rates that is 1.25% lower than what you have. So that would kind of be your answer to that question, Landon. The other thing to think about when refinancing is how long you're going to be in the home. And you're going to want to ask the lender that you're refinancing it with if you are folding in the financing costs, which a lot of people will do when they refinance. They fold in whatever those closing costs were into the refinance. You're going to want to ask your lender what the break-even point is too, because that break-even point is when you actually start making money back. Because say it costs $1,500 to close a refinance loan, your monthly savings, it might take you a year, 2 years to pay for that $1,500 you spent in refinancing. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. As far as what interest rates are going to do in the future, possibly. I don't have a crystal ball. And the last 2 or 3 years, it's kind of sort of felt like Groundhog's Day, to be totally honest with you. I talk with lenders, I read national articles, and they all, for the last 2 or 3 years, have felt like they're saying about the same thing. Next quarter, we're going to be looking at interest rates going down. They're going to get down to the mid fives. They're going to get down below 6, and it just hasn't quite happened yet. But there are some positive signs that interest rates are going to go down. So I definitely think that could happen. So hopefully that answers your question. The refinance question is really, really interesting because I know when it was at its peak interest rates wise in 2024, I know some people got into products that were above 7 or in the high 6s. So it definitely is getting to that point where some of those people should start thinking about refinancing. The other interesting part about it too is you just got that loan. So the odds are hopefully you're going to be staying in that home another 6 or 7 years. So at that point, that 1.25 rule of thumb that I gave you, it kind of starts to change the math a little bit, because if you're really confident that you're going to stay in that home for a long time, it would be more appealing to do it as soon as you possibly can, as soon as it's at a rate that makes sense, if that makes any sense. If you want lenders to talk to walk through these scenarios, definitely reach out to me. I have plenty of great suggestions of local lenders that can refinance your home at a really, really good rate. if you were one of those people that bought in the high sixes or the low sevens. I appreciate everyone. I removed myself. I appreciate everyone for watching. I am so excited to keep growing this, to keep having more people jumping in, keep having more people ask questions, and keep answering the questions on stuff you guys want to hear. I want to talk real estate, and I want to answer the questions that my followers have. I don't want to just feel like I'm talking into the void. I want to start having more conversations about real estate. I'm really, really excited for 2026. A lot of those market stats that I posted on there, I feel like there's a world where we're looking at a really, really good 2026. I think we're going to have a lot of inventory. Interest rates are going to drop a little bit, and I think a lot of buyers are going to come onto the market. And I think if they're early adopters, they're going to get a good deal. And then I think people selling in the summer, if all those buyers flood into the market, like I think there are people that are selling in the summer, will get a really good deal too. So it's really, really exciting. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great Thursday. Have a great weekend. Stay safe with the snow that is about to fall. Have a great day, guys.